Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Thirsty Thursday Live podcast. So, in today's episode, we have an awesome guest, Alex. And if you guys aren't familiar how the show goes, we normally answer questions the last 10 to 15 minutes of the show. But anyhow, who are you? What have you been up to? And introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Alexander Commodore. I'm a adjunct professor of computer science, focusing on graduate digital forensics at Fitchburg State University in Massachusetts, as well as a software engineer in the defense industry. I was also a 2017 third place national finalist for the Cyber Patriot competition and have a
Mm,
diverse background education, not just in technology, but I happen to also be a graduate student simultaneously focusing on computer science and data science.
nice. So, can you dig into like what is the difference between computer science and data science, and why did you end up choosing that route? Like, what sparked your interest?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, computer science, I chose that because I wanted to dig deeper into a technical complexity on the software engineering side, as I used to come from a sysadmin background. I wanted to be more involved and engaged there. That happens to be more about the project methodology, how you create products, how you interact with systems. From a software engineering perspective, using Python, C++, or other languages people are familiar with. Data science is where it's not as known, and it tends to be.
It's breaking up. Did I lose you?
Can you hear me now?
I think I lost you.
Like ChatGPT.
Hmm.
I can see you. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see
So
you. I
think
think
like
that
ChatGPT, for
the
instance.
audio got cut off. Go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. It happens. So data science, think like LLMs, ChatGPT, how those actually work. The back end of that happens to be data science. And so uh, data science is basically taking a bunch of raw data and pulling that in, transforming the data to a way that it can be represented in either a mathematical way, but typically in vectors and matrices in particular. So a lot of linear algebra, statistics, probability, bivariate calculus in the background. But what you see on the output is ChatGPT talking back and forth to you in a natural language format. So that's essentially like the big like ooh ah of data science and why I thought it was interesting, right? Because that's very, very new and growing right now.
Love it, love it. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and that's pretty cool. So, if people want to learn about data science, more specific, because computer science, yeah, we can learn about. Excuse me. We can learn about going to get a bachelor's degree in computer science, or like you said, software engineering, Python, etc. And what about like data science? Is there do you have to actually go to school for data science, or can someone be self-taught?
You absolutely can be self-taught, especially if you're an engineer now. Uh, but you have two methods here. You can go about being a self-starter, taking initiative, and making projects and sharing those things with how you manipulate data from platforms that are making it readily available, like Kaggle, for instance,
Hmm.
that serves up data sets that are ready to be manipulated and created into something interesting. And maybe you can go to employers and present those things as a portfolio. That's the path less taken, perhaps. It's very interesting to do that. But the linear path is to go to university and study, a bachelor's in data science or a master's in that, or going for computer science and concentrating in that. But I would say if you have a CS degree, you're very equipped to go do it because most of it happens to be in Python these days.
Nice. Good. Thank you. Appreciate that. So if there's anyone out there that wants to become a data scientist, there you go. There you go. Some tips. So that's the educational aspect, right? So like are like offensive security, hacking, even like when you're a system engineer, you maybe did like an MCSE or an MCITP, CCNA. Are there like certifications that will equip you for being a data scientist, or is it just strictly like degree driven?
That's an interesting question. I'm not familiar with any certifications for data science, but I think Hack the Box recently probably falls into this category where they've taken a good step to this. Not with a certification, but with a course that intersects to your interest of cybersecurity. I recently took the Hack the Box Red Teamer AI Red Teamer course, and that happens to be on that cert-driven platform now, where they're getting popular with that. But we don't really have conventional certs for that. It tends to be more university, or more you're someone who has a basis of a language like C++ or Python, preferably, and you dive into it because it's pretty easy to get into. Once you have a good handle of programming, you can kind of jump right in, only because of the abstraction of the mathematics behind data science via
Gotcha.
libraries.
Gotcha. That's definitely cool. So as far as like, a lot of cybersecurity folks are really, really into conferences. Like last week we had an AWS guy, and like there's other people, whatever, if it's networking or if it's like Cisco Live or DEF CON or Black Hat, like, we'll stay on the topic of data science right now, and then we'll like, oh, like, have you been to any conferences that you're looking to go to? But specifically for data science and in your world, are there conferences that people go to learn more and hear more about the newest, latest, and greatest cool stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple, maybe almost a month ago now, but definitely in the span of weeks, the Open Data Science Conference, ODSC, had their conference in Boston. Yeah. And that's a really, really big conference that platforms a bunch of sponsors and platforms a lot of talk about agentic AI and those other hot topics right now.
Hmm.
But you can also seek local meetups and chapters like PyData Boston, for instance, or anything else out there. Those are the two I'm mostly familiar with. But these are opportunities to attend talks where you can absorb the material at a higher
Hmm.
level and
Hmm.
get familiar with the business acumen side, right? And perhaps the application outcomes to generate that passion, that interest. And then maybe you can attend workshops too through these things. And so altogether, really good blended outfit and learning opportunity.
Cool. And it's not on my talking points, but what about labbing stuff up at home? Can we like set up our own lab and learn this stuff, or is it mostly online with different platforms? Can, say, for example, someone doesn't have money or they're just trying to learn it and all they have is their laptop and the internet. Is that good enough?
That's an awesome question. Yeah, it actually is good enough. And you have a couple options. What you can do is you can go to Google Colab, where you can probably spin up some environments there that you can use the GPUs on their end to, actually run your programs, because a lot of this stuff is open source in the sense where it's free. Like you're relying on libraries like scikit-learn, PyTorch, TensorFlow, NLTK, Pandas, and NumPy, to name a few. And you can just put those in, install them with pip according to your version spec parameters, and start building small things with that free data from Kaggle, that platform. And you can either do that in a Jupyter notebook
Hmm.
via an Anaconda environment, which is like a really good developer environment, and you have this scientific notebook, and you can run something, write some comments, run something again, pause, press play, step through the cycle, the iterations here, and see the response. So it's very friendly, and all of that is free. And all you really need is a computer where you can download Python, Windows or Linux, which is probably preferable in some cases, but even just Windows on an Anaconda driven environment with Jupyter Lab and Notebook, you can do a ton, and you don't need anything else. You can just grab data prepared for the mission.
Awesome. Awesome. That's good. Thank you so much for that. That's definitely informative because this is not a space for me and I'm learning something in case someone ever asks me. I'm like, oh, you can do it because sometimes there's questions that, that's not my expertise. And for an example, last week when I had my guest on, I was talking about AWS, we're talking about DevSecOps and DevOps and blah, blah, blah. And then I was getting questions asked from me. I'm like, dude, I'm not the DevOps guy. Go contact that guy. You know what I mean? But it's definitely informative stuff because, like I said, I'm nowhere near, I'm not a developer. I'm not in that space. So, I'd stay in my own lane. So that's pretty cool. So we talked about like your conferences and stuff like that. So networking, right? Networking with other people. Like we were talking about this off air. Some people out there aren't so extroverted, right? So is it important, maybe to find a job, or maybe just to, obviously networking is important to find jobs because you make connections, but in this space,
Yes.
is it important? Like, did you get your job because you knew someone, or because what you know, per se?
I got my job because of what I know, but the reason why I had that opportunity, I think, was because I let people see what I know, and not
Mm-hmm.
just through a resume that gets sent through an automated system, but because I was blogging, I was talking to people on LinkedIn, or I was going to conferences and doing the groundwork, so to speak, and
Mm-hmm.
meeting people, having friendly interactions, even just for fun. It always leads to an opportunity to hear someone who's either more senior, and that's your mentor, or more junior, and then that's your mentee. And there's
Mm-hmm.
that beautiful dynamic that you can establish where you have an opportunity to make something great out of that. So it's not all about just get the job, but it's also about you can just have a good day and a good time. But for me, it was really taking the opportunity, right? The time to create a website, start making blog posts for like penetration testing and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
GitHub as well as another portfolio people like to use. But making things visible because unless people can see what you're doing, what you're working on, they're not going to know you. And while it's a daunting task, it takes a little courage, and it's a great thing to invest your time into.
Absolutely, Alex. I really love that because I'm always a big advocate of like showcasing your work, and especially even before I got into pen testing and security as a whole. Like, I remember, just when I was a sysadmin, like before VMware Workstation and VMware, or VirtualBox, there was something called Virtual PC. I don't know if you were around. I don't know how old. I think you said how old you are, but that's probably before your time.
No,
You heard of Virtual
25.
PC?
Yeah, maybe a bit.
Yeah. So Virtual PC was,
No, no, no. VMware VirtualBox.
yeah. So Virtual PC was probably around. I got my MCITP Enterprise Admin in 2000, I think 10 or 2009. So what is that? I don't know, 16 years ago. So this is what was out back
Wow.
then, and I used to always tell people, like, get a machine, get it. Back then I used to have like 6 computers in my room. It was like a heating pad in my room, and running everything, and having like a 2003 domain controller, promoting that to 2008 back then, but showcasing that, and really being able to elaborate on what you did at home and like your home lab, especially if like, you're a junior getting into the game, right? I think showcasing that is definitely important for the person that's interviewing to understand your your portfolio, your abilities, per se. But yeah, I think that's super critical. So yeah, so blog, so do you still blog today, and or is that something that you were doing? I haven't, I didn't do too much research on you, so I'm sorry, but are you still blogging?
No worries. Uh, a little bit, not too much these days. I'm really deep into research for my, being a better developer, right?
Hmm.
But I think the most recent stuff I was looking into was more material with digital forensics, more modern tools and engagement things there. Uh, a lot of my time gets spent right now into the whole like leak code, hacker rank stuff, the whole data structures and algorithms problems and whatnot. But the stuff I was focused on previously was predominantly going on Hack the Box and getting those retired machines, picking one, anyone, doesn't matter what the difficulty is, although the length to blog like an insane machine might be insane. But if you pick one of those and you spend time, writing your process and throwing a little personality into it, so you're not, super bored.
Yeah.
It's a good way while you're doing it. You write it, you get used to improving that, and slowly you can log your progress. And so that's what I was doing. And then every time I do a CTF, if I can help it, I like to tackle those cipher challenges, the software reverse engineering ones, malware analysis, whatever else I can. Hopefully, if the web goes well, that too. But I like to make sure I keep a written log of all of that and platform all of it on my website. So that way, when they first enter my website, they can see everything about me, everything I'm doing. and it tells a short story, and that storytelling piece, that's the most important part of blogging.
Mhm.
But I really enjoy it. It's really fun. It makes it more engaging.
Yeah, that's definitely important, I think. So, do you feel like, all right, so what is an alternative? Like, say for example, someone can't afford a domain in their site, and like maybe they're not a developer, so maybe they have to hire someone to put up their data, excuse me, and put up their stuff on their site. What is an alternative to showcase that for free? Like, where can they do this? Obviously, GitHub is one, but like anywhere else that you would recommend that's a little bit easier on the eyes, because GitHub can get you know, a little crazy too.
Yeah, GitHub can be a little shaky, but I think that if you use Markdown language, make .md files, kind of like a Obsidian format, which is very
Hmm.
popular these days, or like a cherry tree kind of thing.
Hmm.
If you make your repositories well organized and you take time to learn the structure of Markdown language, which doesn't take too long, you can just honestly, vibe coding is a huge thing. Just vibe learn Markdown. After you vibe learn Markdown and you make your pretty GitHub repository with the READMEs on each directory and subdirectory, so it's very clear what you're looking at when you get there, that's a
Hmm.
great alternative.
Cool.
Otherwise, yeah, it can get expensive sometimes to host like something, but I use Squarespace. I like that platform because I got a recommendation about it from someone else, but I do pay for that, and so I haven't personally spent a lot of time thinking about the free side of that because I don't host a web server on my own for that. But I do use GitHub for a lot of stuff, and that has been great for me.
Gotcha. So for your website, do you do all your editing, or you have someone doing your editing?
Do we mean editing like as granular as like the JavaScript, HTML, all that stuff, or like the
I guess more of like, say for example, you want to put a new blog up. Do you do that yourself, or do you like you write it up and you send it to someone and they put it up for you?
Oh, I do all of it. I use Squarespace's user interface, and it's super easy because you have that editor aspect of it where you don't even have to dig as deep as the HTML, JavaScript, the CSS, anything else that
Hmm.
is out there to visualize the experience. So that's the advantage of those. You're quicker to start if you do that. Someone mentioned Linode, so maybe that's a good web server. But
Yeah.
maybe a WordPress site on a Linode server could be an interesting idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's just like, because not everyone likes to be on video. Not everyone wants to make a video. Because that's another thing I wanted to talk about, like making videos. Because, blogs are cool, but a lot, like, for example, me, right? If I want to watch, like, if I'm stuck and reading a walkthrough, I'm terrible at that. Like, but if someone has a video on a walkthrough, that clicks with me more than if I have to like read through. I don't like reading, so like if I have to read through a walkthrough, it's like I have ADD. Once I'm at the third step, I'm like, fuck this. I'm not reading this thing anymore. I'll just figure it out. So, but if I'm watching a video, I can follow it a little better. So, like, are you into video editing? Or, I mean, video content, like, or how do you learn? Like, do you learn more audio, video, reading? What is your go-to?
I have some weird routines. I I like reading a lot. I probably read every day. Um, the kind of books that I like to divulge into tends to be like on technical topics that I want to learn more about, like for data science, for instance. Kirill Eremenko's Confident Data Skills is a great book for getting introduced into the theory without going too granular into math with the techniques.
Hmm.
Because I'm not amazing at math. I got to tell you right away. I'm not the math guy, but I want to be. And so getting that first layer of abstraction is really important to creating the ability to memorize and apply these concepts.
Hmm.
If you care more about it by doing something that resonates more with you, kind of like what you're saying with the videos, that's a good technique. But I like to combine all of it because sometimes for me, like just having an AI assistant like ChatGPT is really engaging because I can talk to it just like a person. and I will get what I need out of that. And it can even do deep web research, and that'll pull things quicker than I could sometimes filtering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, you touched on like some pen testing stuff and, so, but you're a software engineer, you're doing data science. So why did you end up going like to, OSWP and PMPT and like those certifications? Did you have like an interest in getting into pen testing and then like pulled back, or like, or what was your journey on why you wanted to get some of those certs?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was a system administrator in my previous company, I was really focused on becoming a penetration tester or getting into red teaming. And I'll be honest with you, I still really, really care about that. I still do the CTFs. I still spend my time going out to conferences. I plan to go to DEF CON as well and
Nice.
compete in everything I can. And I love that stuff. I think it's so cool. Um, but I pulled back a little bit because I wanted to get deeper into research. And I knew getting a computer science degree and concentrating in data science with the new novel emerging technology is going to allow me to, apply to PhD programs, do stuff in the area of research and application
Mm-hmm.
in the future. And penetration testing is actually really important to that too. So that's why I still do that stuff, because software reverse engineering happens in a lot of labs.
Mm-hmm.
Malware analysis as well, defer. A lot of these skills go into a really competent researcher. And so I can't let up on those things entirely. But offensive security research in a different context is more what I'm interested in today. But I still really like doing the pen testing stuff. But it was just a quick like turnaround of, okay, first it was, I want this computer science degree because it'll make me a more well-rounded pen tester, because I'll understand how to, do the secure code review, find vulnerabilities, address, buffer overflows or return-oriented programming, manipulating binaries and stuff with the reverse engineering statically or dynamically. And I was like, wait, this is kind of cool. So I wanted to go deeper in that end of it.
Cool. Yeah. So talking about some of like the certifications that you got, just for anyone out there, just to hear from a different perspective, you did OSWP from OffSec, you did PMPT from TCM, PJPT, EJPT, right? Are those the only ones that you got? Did I get those correct?
Yep, that's correct. I've taken those exams. The CBBH and the CPTS I've taken the training for. I haven't taken those, but I have a good handle on what those things teach people as well. I think they're all valuable in their own way. They all teach a lot of stuff. I think Keith Adams' stuff is incredibly engaging, and he's really, really positive, and that's important because
Hmm.
that inspires people to want to be more engaged and want to
Yeah.
go. It's a good attitude to create. So he's great. Um, OSCP, that is what I would probably be focused on if I wanted to go back to priority focus. But it's not as engaging as some of the courses and course material by TCM or by Hack the Box
Hmm.
or alternative vendors, maybe. The EJPT, I might kind of wrap a little more toward the OffSec end. So, but I think Hack the Box is probably the best platform because it gets you the most street cred, I think.
Yeah.
And so I think people's time is probably best spent there. But the OSWP
What?
probably is worthwhile from OffSec for that piece.
Yeah. So it broke up. At least. So
Oh, did it freeze?
obviously, without giving too much, yeah, you don't have to say too much, obviously. But for OSWP, like I never took that exam, and I like wireless hacking, wireless pen testing, all that stuff. So without going into too much depth about the exam, like can someone, for an example, if I have a home router and I have an alpha adapter and I don't know, that's pretty much it, right? And a Kali machine or Parrot OS or whatever you're going to use. I like Parrot OS, me personally, for wireless testing. I don't use a Kali machine, but because my Panda and my Alpha drivers just work. Kali sometimes the real tech drivers can be a pain in the butt, but that's just at least for me. Maybe I just don't have luck with it. But So, what is it that you need to understand and learn for like wireless pen test? If someone wants to get into wireless hacking, um, what is some stuff that people should be on the lookout for and try to understand to be a wireless hacker?
Sure, yeah. I think the most important thing to know immediately is like this exam has been around for a long time. Because it's been around for a long time, people have talked a lot about it, made a lot of posts about it, and that's really important for establishing. So for me, go on YouTube and go look up cracking WPA, WEP, WPA2, WPA3 not really addressed, a little different
Mhm.
now. But WPA2 is a very big piece of the exam, and it's a big piece of wireless testing in general that we're actually able to succeed in cracking. So looking up those encryption types, that's important, and looking at people's testimonials, their experiences, especially GitHub for like cheat sheets and stuff, because the amount of the material isn't so dense. You could probably pass that exam in like 2 weeks if you're comfortable, right? If you're
Mhm.
comfortable with Kali Linux, the environment, Bash, you can move quickly. You can probably go take OffSec's course and be very successful. And this was not planned, by the way, but I actually have what is this? I have an alpha. Yes, this is probably what you have as well. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
one
I
of
have
these.
a couple over there. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and I have the Wi-Fi Pineapple, though I haven't spent much time using that. But all you really need is this, or maybe you have a device that has the capability already, perhaps. But if you get one of these and you go use the free materials online, I even have something on my blog too about WPA2, pen testing that. And it really takes a lot less effort than people think. But what you really need to know is Aircrack NG Suite.
Yep.
If you spend time learning the Aircrack NG Suite, you're going to dive into so many other pots of information relative to wireless pen testing. That's like the go-to for a lot of people. And there's other things, where you can like enumerate your environment perhaps and like identify devices in your area and maybe do other things. But the Aircrack suite is it's just such the go-to, I think, that most of the time you're probably just better off sticking to that unless you have like an outlier case that you have to address, especially for that exam. You can probably rely on that.
Gotcha. So, like some tools I use is like Reaver, Better Cap, Aircrack and G, Wi-Fi. There's other tools that I use in my arsenal. You have a Wi-Fi Pineapple too. I have even my Flipper that has like the Wi-Fi, so I can do
Oh yeah.
intercepting traffic. Yeah. So but going back for the exam, so the exam just the Aircrack NG suite, and you're good to go. Like they don't need folks don't need to know too many other. Like, are you just obviously this might be quite. You can just tell me I can't say that because it's on the exam or whatever. But like in the real world, like if we have to set up an evil twin, or say
Mhm.
for example we have a radius server connect, we're not using a WPA2, we're using WPA2 Enterprise. So now we're connecting this to a radius server. So how are we going to de-authenticate that? We have to have an evil twin to authenticate so we can blah blah blah. Is there anything like that, or is very very basic WPA2, maybe WEP, blah blah blah? Like since it's been so old, I don't know if it's been updated, but is it very like to the point like that, or is it a little more advanced?
You definitely should be familiar with those concepts. They can go as basic as the WPA or WEP, um, but you should definitely understand evil twin methodology as well. You should probably understand packet captures, knowing how to
Hmm.
use tools like Wireshark and how to actually like dig deep into those packets,
Yep.
understand what's in there.
The
But
four-way
luckily for most
handshake.
people, if you're taking the course, right, and you're not just shooting for the exam, you should be pretty comfortable with that, right? I think if you if you're confident enough to just do that without taking the course, you're probably gonna understand that piece of it all anyway, maybe. But the format they have is it's like two flags that it's one flag you need, and then you need one more. And so you have two options for those other flag options that you could pick.
Gotcha.
So that's kind of like the structure.
Yeah.
You need one, but you can get two others. That's really it. So they publicize that too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think,
It's not big, but it is 4 hours though. So
yeah. And I think I'd said this off air. Like, I have a buddy, I don't know if he's here today. I don't know. Maybe he's sleeping. But I think he did it. If I remember, I have to ask him tomorrow. I think he did it in like 15 or 20 minutes, the exam. And he was like, "Oh, but everything's easy for this kid. Fucking everything's easy."
wow.
He's just like, "Oh, that it was stupid easy." I'm like, "I wonder if I can do it." He goes, "Oh, you can do it." Like, and he's very honest with me. If I can't do it, he's like, "No, you're too dumb." But like, I want to, because that's a cert I think I would want to get. Like, I would do I think I said this off air. Like, from OffSec, I think I would do OSWP, OSEP, and OSWE. I don't know if I would do like what is OSED, OSED, exploit developer, because I'm not really a developer.
Oh, that one is cool.
Yeah, that's probably more up your alley. Like,
I'd love that one to go and learn that.
yeah. But like I said, like, if anyone out there, I'm not, everyone has their own, flavor of opinions on any training facility, but with training companies. But I think for OffSec, the only justifiable way to go, in my opinion, is just spend $6,000 for the year and just go all out. Because if you think about if you do OSWP,
Oh
OSCP,
yeah.
and OS whatever EP, that's $6,000 right there, or $5,500. I think, like, 2, 4, and then maybe $1,500 or $1,200 for the OSWP. So it's like, why just spend $6,000 and you can unlimited everything. You can fail 100 times. So, like, you have no, like, oh, if I fail this, I want to lose money. $6,000, you can whatever, take an exam every week. Take it 52 times. But that's the only
You
way,
could.
like,
You
I would
could.
justify.
That's a great ROI.
Exactly. That's what I'm like. I was telling my friend, the one I was just talking about, because he has that, and he has to do the OSED, and that's like to get his OSWE
Did you do
3.
that?
He's studying for. I think he's going to take it this month. He said,
Oh man.
"Yeah," and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him have the OSWE or whatever 3 or whatever hell it is. But yeah, I think I may, it all depends on my situation. But the only way that I would go for OffSec is just spend $6,000 and have that ROI. But if anyone else is watching out there, I don't think it's just worth just going to get like the OSCP for $2,000. That's when I say it's so expensive. There's other alternative, like CPTS is covers more, and it's $210. Maybe for the what do you call them, the cubes or whatever. I don't know. I had like all the cube. I had
Oh
unlimited
yeah.
cubes,
The
whatever. I
cubes.
don't know. So I didn't really have to pay per cube. But I think maybe total is maybe $500, and you're getting a certification that it has a wealth of information, wealth of knowledge, and and yeah. So that's just my justification why I would do the offsets. Spend $6,000 and go all out. But yeah, so that's that. So talking about the offset
Yeah, I think that
OSCP,
it's a really good idea to do it that way.
yeah, for sure. I think so. OSCP, have you taken your OSCP? Like, what is your takes on that exam? Maybe for anyone else out there watching, share as little as much as you want.
I've taken yes. I've taken the OSCP 3 times. So I'm still working on one personally. The first time I got 50 points. And honestly, for me, it gets to the point where it's like, okay, I spent 18 hours. I can't get the last one, right? But 50 points. So I was really close. I got AD and I just had the stand left. And then for me, it was okay, this is not the 4 days I had for some of these others. And then life comes in, being human comes in, and it's a
Absolutely.
little tough. But at the same time, that's on me, right? Because I am missing pieces of my methodology. And that's knowledge, right? But it is really difficult and be really level-headed. And I don't always have that, with that exam. The second time I got 0, right? Because you flip through the iterations of the box setup you get. And the third time I was right back around that same place. And so, it's a hard exam, but I think if you're really passionate about pen testing and, you want to get into that role, it's not a bad idea to go for it. But I think if people are on a hiring manager team or a well-educated HR representative knows what the CPTS is in these alternative exams, they would understand, okay, these ones teach more methodology and are a little more or less stress testing the human, where you can, achieve the same goal. It's the same exact thing. It teaches you all the same content. I've seen all of it.
Yeah.
Both courses. I've done both, except now, the OSCP's curriculum, they added something about AWS pen testing, which is cool. And I bought Tyler Ramsby's course, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, I hope. But he's really great too, and that course he made is fantastic. I haven't taken it yet, but there's not a lot of content that's structured for that stuff, and we need more of that.
Yeah, no, Tyler's awesome. Yeah, his AWS pen testing, I haven't seen it. I should check it out, but I'm not doing AWS testing. Right? I'm not. I work more on Azure and doing other stuff. But so definitely, maybe one day I would do like the CARTP, which is Certified Azure Red Team Professional from Alta Security. Maybe that would be. Thank you, Glenn. My crack supply.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, so the Azure has a yeah, because I love green tea, but yeah, so that's good to know. Like, for the OSCP, and I think it's super important for people to see, like, everyone is human. Like, sometimes people do the OSCP, for an example, and it's like super. Oh, this is really like. You have folks like the guy I was talking about. He's like, oh, OSCP is too easy, right? It's a very beginner cert, but you're doing other certifications that are like not very easy, and you're still, I don't know, everything's easy for him, but and like, I just think it's super important to put out there that don't compare. The moral of that is don't compare yourself to the next person, because then you're going to have imposter syndrome, drive yourself bonkers and all that stuff. So I think that's super important. What is your take on imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I agree completely. You have to be caught up on that. Oh, imposter syndrome. I still have that. I still have that all the time. Granted, I'm probably more early career, and I have like 20 certs, and so that I'm maybe more structured education perhaps with how I pipelined. But it's tough, because what happens is, you look at people who go to Ivy League colleges, you look at people who have a plethora of certifications, you look at people who are in highly esteemed roles in some of these FANG companies. How could you not? There's so much out there, and there's so much success out there. If you're not all the way at the end of your journey, it's gonna feel a little. It's gonna be a little scary. And so I have that all the time. But I try to think of it every day. I have an opportunity to schedule and learn certain skills. And for me right now, that's be a better developer, be better at Java, be better at C++, Python, spend more time collaborating with others and learning more about data science. And then it's going to flip back to pen testing with CTF things when DEF CON comes. And I'm kind of on like this weird schedule where tomorrow I'm going to do the US Cyber Games CTF with some buddies. And then there's a couple others along this month, I think. But I try to pay attention to those, because even like 10 hours spent on that, if that's all I have, that's really valuable time spent for me to challenge myself with puzzles and stuff.
Yeah.
Even if it's not something I super want to do.
Yeah, that's fair. So you said you're going to DEF CON this year.
Yep, that'll be my first time at DEF CON.
So are you booked and everything good to go? Like, you're ready?
Yeah, everything's booked. Everything's good to go. I'm super excited to check out the red teaming village. I think the adversarial one as well covers a lot of stuff about malware. I think there's also a malware analysis village. I care a lot about the malware analysis village. I care a lot about red teaming, anything to do with AI and data science and cloud, because a couple of those things are new enough where it's like, okay, I've been around typical operating system environments and like the AD structure and everything enough. I need to learn more, force myself to listen, to watch, to engage with some of those more novel topics.
Cool. Yeah, and when you, I'll be there too. I got my ticket, and I'll be at the Red Team Village. I'll be volunteering there. So, let me know when you're there, and we can definitely link
Oh,
up.
really?
And yeah, I'll be there. Yep. I just got
That's
the
awesome. Yeah, we totally should.
email this week.
I actually sent in a thing to volunteer for them.
So maybe you should hear this week if you got accepted or not. I got
I actually
mine
sent in a volunteer.
on Wednesday, Tuesday. So maybe if you're a volunteer as well, then we'll be volunteering together.
If they take me, yes, we will. Typically chose that one
Yeah.
too. I was like, oh, this one's, I like this one the most. So
Yeah. No, for sure. Awesome. So we have about, let's see if there's any questions in the chat. I don't think there is. Let's see.
sure.
Everyone blah blah blah. I recall trying to learn wasn't fun at all. I don't know anything about data science. So FedEx stopping by to say hello from Costa Rica. Pura vida. Awesome seeing you. Um, blah blah. FedEx now. I run a few WordPress sites on Linode. Works fine. I use Cloud Linux for 90% of my web servers. WordPress, okay. And what's about what role does data science and then they play? All right, I don't know. This is more of a question for you, Alex. I don't know why they're saying to me.
That's an interesting question. So I do have an answer for that, but I don't have a specific answer maybe to password cracking explicitly. But this will tie in the picture. So with agentic AI, that whole novel concept where AI agents can be deployed with a task, they might not necessarily need a human automator to intervene with the tasking once they're set on their path. But humans take more of a role where they're reviewing and supervising this supervised learning task. Although it can become more unsupervised as you send these agents out that can collaborate together and go and achieve something that they need to do, where they can scale up and scale down. So if we take that concept into consideration, what we can then think is, okay, so they have some level of autonomy where they can communicate. What we could then have these AI agents do is we could apply the typical password cracking techniques and methodologies and tool usage through shell insertion commands and stuff. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, with Python, we're able to interact with Red Hat systems or Windows systems through subprocess commands, where we
Mm-hmm.
can utilize shell language. Well, we can have those AI agents go do those things we typically do. And we can even have them in more of a programmatic context, refactor their own code and iterate through their own process of learning. And while that might get a little very technically deep, AI agents have a really serious offensive security application from the development side with exploits, but also with the side of doing that too much. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you rope back into the side of, okay, well, AI is around. What people could also do on the side of, applying data science to OffSec is they could vibe code new exploits, right? So you have you can start quicker, do these things quicker with more limited knowledge on the engineering side. But we could also take old exploits and we can change bits and pieces of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the metamorphic part where things are changing. And so people are able to take advantage of AI agents to achieve tasks like that, I think. I think that's going to because we don't truly understand the OWASP top 10 for LLMs exactly entirely. So there's going to be a ton of vulns that come out with that. And as we apply data science and vibe code, think of all the new exploits that are going to spawn. I wonder if there could even be old ones that resurface because they've been refactored, which just means you've taken the code and you've made it to a more modernized state where it's better, more optimized to the solution that someone had for this patch. We
Fair
might
enough.
see a lot of things that are wacky happen. So
That's
it is a cool thought.
yeah, cool. And then he has one more here. How can machine learning improve credential stuffing attacks both on the offensive and defensive perspective?
I think that the previous statement kind of covers the offensive,
Hmm.
application with that. But something that I am working on that I'm presenting at in the future in August after DEF CON at what is it, Boston IT Security Meetup, and also at the university in the fall, or yeah, in the fall. And maybe besides NYC, if they take me as a speaker, will be malware data science. So this is the whole concept of applying data science to a cybersecurity problem. And through supervised and unsupervised learning with data science techniques through models, we can actually take statically analyzed data and we can put that in the model, and we can classify things through these techniques as malware or benign, or we can classify malware families based off of a shared code analysis, looking at the weighted features of things. For instance, if there's a high uh, packing in binaries, that typically happens with malware to obfuscate, the intention, throw off the reverse engineers, or maybe, just typical code obfuscation, more entropy, more randomness. Um, we can use those static, data points, and we can make predictions for what is going to happen, or classify data through incident, through indicators of compromise, through incidents that defer teams grab and can upload to models.
Hmm.
So that's a project that I'm working on that is, very exciting to me, and I think it's a very interesting thing for cyber guys to think about, because you don't have to, with a lot of these code libraries for data science, it abstracts away all the mathematics, and if you learn how to use the tooling, the libraries against your problem, I think that's going to be a really cool thing for defer teams to either use as just users and not have to worry about the technical background, or maybe, I don't know. That's just my thought. Like that's something that I'm super hyped about, and so I'm going to be presenting those topics, and I'm hoping to bring to the university a really, really modern education in these kind of topics, where we can, grow with the emerging technologies, and with malware analysis, address how all this variance, when someone changes one little thing, or when they use these automatic malware creation toolkits, they're spawning out so many new ones.
Hmm.
So data science goes far further than just statistical analysis, or, you know, LLMs and chatbots. We can use it for some very real cool things.
That's sick, dude. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really cool. And I think obviously best of luck. Of hopefully you get accepted to B-side NYC. I think I might. I'm not sure if Kevin's in chat today, but I think I might be going to B-side New York this year because I wanted to go last year, and it will be fun to actually, you know, go to one that's, I'm from the city I'm from. Like I never been to B-side New York, and I think it's at what is that? John Hopkins or whatever. I don't even know. I think it's in Queen. I don't even know where it's at. To be honest, I don't even know.
Yes,
That's
yeah,
where it's
that's
at,
where it
right?
is. I haven't been either. I wanted to go last year. I didn't go because of work, but I
Yeah.
wanted to do that Pro versus Joe CTF they had last year.
Nice. Yeah. So maybe maybe I'll go out there, fly home for a week or whatever, or the weekend, couple of days, and maybe I'll join. I think I want to submit a talk there too, and I have a few talks that I'm working on. Um, one is on the a little bit about Wi-Fi, what we were talking about today, because that's a topic I really really enjoy. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, oh yeah, like, and that's why I'm like, okay, like the one that I can justify myself doing is the OSWP, just because like that's like really there's another Wi-Fi hacking cert I think. Um, but the only real one that's probably noticeable, recognizable is the OSWP, and it's like, and it's probably the cheapest one on their in their catalog, So it's like, why not? I think I can knock that out, like you said, in 2 weeks. I could probably do it in a week, just like to understand how they present their exam, and then just go for it. And you have to write a report for it, right?
Yeah, mine was like 20 pages. So actually, compared to what you've had to do for those other ones, way better. it's three targets. So
Yeah, exactly.
as far as reading and writing goes, we're all chilling.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think I might, I don't know, talking about this more and more, it might be something that I might look into and see what's up. This is awesome getting my nerd on. Any good books or papers that you would recommend on that, Alex? On that, what you were talking about on the,
On malware,
I guess.
yeah. So I actually have a filing cabinet behind me. I read research papers all the time. I try to anyway, and I try to annotate them because it'll help me get used to the mindset of okay, PhD time later. I need to do something like that. But I I can let me see. Hmm. Can I send something in the chat? Is that possible?
Send what, like a file
Hmm.
or like a
Maybe
site?
not. But oh, not a file. No, just text.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because I
yeah.
actually have some
Shoot it
sources for my
here. Shoot
presentation,
it
but
here. Um, Send it here, and then I will add it to the chat
oh,
on the
cool.
private chat. Just throw whatever you're gonna want to put in. All
Yeah,
right,
those are all
perfect. Let me highlight all this.
they're cited. It's a mess. They're cited, but what I really enjoyed reading and watching actually too, Solomon Sonia, I got a adapt. I made an adapted model from his machine learning model breakdown applied to malware because he did a really good job and he did some work for Purdue University. Um, can recommend that comes to mind is Malware Data Science. It's books. It probably was the inspiration for me. I was trying to find, okay, I need to get comfortable again. How do I make data science more cyber? And I was like, oh, I found that book and I was like, oh, this would be a cool presentation. So that's what I've been focused on. I've been reading about in there, come more down this, and what I mean by features is you extract static, say like PE headers, the breakdown of things like syscalls from the user space to the kernel space system side. That's a feature. That's a data point. We can make a shared code analysis between families, like who has these features, who has these other features, and we can apply weight to those things. And so what we're able to do with data science through feature engineering is select those features, apply weight, and then feed it through the model to make decisions based off of how important things are. And they'll get filtered out more. But there's particular features with benign, normal files and files, right? Malicious files. And so separate those things. And so what people could do if they spend the time to create this in their environment is they could actually all the benign files on your OM, and there's a data set and a comma separated value format. You've got a data set, benign. You can go and get malware and create that manually, but actually has access to some really good data sets stuff, and it's super cool. Like the is like, let me see if I can find my thing. Headers, imports and exports, and all the malware binary. There's also the zoo, which provides
Yeah, the zoo is
go get
awesome.
and use, and then there's
Yeah.
mal image, which yeah, the zoo is awesome. And so you mal image, which is binaries converted images, where you have a
Hmm.
pixel representation, live malware, but it's now static. So it's not going to detonate. But what happens is to a convolutional neural network. And so what that is you run convolutions and pooling over it. So these are operations over this like bit by bit pixel representation of colors and stuff. Feeds through a neural network. And what happens is you're able to come out with decisions, right? And so neural networks are black boxed.
Hmm.
So you can't tell sometimes what, some of these data science models. So that's the whole explainable AI concept. Like, how do we engineer and supervise this so we don't understand. But that's a very that is very computationally expensive. But an example that token for like an example of how you can go about doing this with data. And so mal image set happens to be all grayscale images packed into a bunch of families that you could then work with PyTorch and see what the outcomes are and see like, oh, do we have and can we in an unsupervised manner out and visualize them with tools like Plotly and Seaborn.
That's pretty sick, dude.
Very data sciencey.
Yeah, yeah, that's really nerdy shit for sure. That's that's like that's beyond nerd alert. But that's awesome, dude. Like, yeah, just like Jorge said, keep doing good work. See you at DEF CON. Yeah, it'll be. I'm going to be there. Jorge's going to Caffeine OD. There's going to be so many folks there. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person. That'll be really, really fun, and hanging out with so many other the homies. That's really what I go to DEF CON for. It's have fun, enjoy, see my homies, and just it's pretty much like they say, like the hacker summer camp, right? It's pretty much that's pretty much what it is. But that's awesome, man. I really enjoyed our chat tonight. If there's anyone that wants to connect with you, how can they connect with you? If you want to put your site in the private chat, I can throw that up there too. Yeah. And any last words for the audience?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So my website is cyberwiretraining.net. Anybody could connect with me on LinkedIn and request a connection, and we can have chats about anything to do with careers or how you break in and diversify yourself. I'm super happy to talk to anyone. I really care about cyber, and I think a really good closing statement on my end is like, we have one of the most engaging communities, one of the most collaborative. Engineering, everyone else aside, we have the best one. We have DEF CON. That's a proof of concept. We're the coolest with each other, and we share, and we have fun. So I'm super excited to see anybody at DEF CON, especially you, Patrick.
Awesome. I really appreciate you, Alex, tonight. Hopefully you enjoy your rest of your evening. And everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the flip side, and much love, and have a good night.